All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We are here, episode number 1 of the BallTalk SportShow. I'm here with my boy Nick. I am AK, and we're going to be talking all things ball sports. We got some NFL. We got the NBA starting up. We got Premier League talk, Champions League, all that good stuff. How we doing, Nick?
Doing well, Adam. How are you?
Oh, I'm just delighted to be doing this right now. I can't wait to talk about all of it.
Sitting in the basement, drinking a beer.
All right, what do we got first? The NFL. Let's recap what just happened. We're recording this Monday, so we're going to just talk about all the Sunday games, and we're going to skip over quickly the Thursday night beating, I believe that was Chiefs-Broncos, yep.
Yeah.
Poor Broncos. They got the Colts next, and they're going down.
Yeah. The big thing from that game, obviously, the Mahomes injury.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest topics this week, I think. I've heard a lot of chatter about it. Obviously, some good news as far as the MRI. So he looks like he should be back within just like 3 weeks.
Right, yeah. It didn't look serious. But I think he will have to wear a brace on the knee for the rest of the year. So we'll see how that hinders his movement and playmaking ability.
He's definitely one of those guys that works really well outside of the pocket. Obviously, We've seen him.
Yeah,
he makes the craziest throws. Him and Aaron Rodgers, to me, are the two best at just wowing me with skills as far as quarterbacks go, man. He's the real deal. So hopefully he comes back, and they can still make a playoff run. That'd be a fun matchup in the playoffs, I think, for the Colts. Bring up the Colts game. Gave old Houston the big L.
Yeah, obviously divisional matchup. Two best teams in the division. Huge game for the Colts.
Yeah, I think it's honestly pretty clear that these are the top two as well. Tennessee got lucky, barely beat the Chargers because the Chargers suck, and they always find a way to lose, except for when they play the fucking Colts. We'll talk about that some other time. But, Tennessee and Jacksonville both, I think we could already write off is not going to make the playoffs.
They both look bad.
Mariota got benched for Tannehill. Is Tannehill going to do anything to spark that team into a new team? I don't think so. No. Their defense is pretty hit and miss. So
he looked okay this weekend, but, yeah, I would have to agree. And Jacksonville, I mean, Cincinnati gave him a run. Could have won that game. I mean, they don't look serious. Cincinnati
is not a team that it should be close with, and it was rather close for sure.
Also just lost Jalen Ramsey, so their defense gets worse.
Yeah, I keep forgetting about that. That's actually pretty huge as far as Jacksonville is concerned, because now their defense is really not what it was maybe even just last year, 2 years ago. They were always probably the best defense in our conference, division, whatever, with the Colts, Houston.
Right.
So,
yeah, and we kind of talked about that Chargers game already briefly, but let's go back to that game because Gordon, obviously, I mean, he holds out for a contract. Twitter was giving him all sorts of grief yesterday just because, I mean, people are frustrated. He holds out for a contract, and then he ends up costing them that game that should have been a win, easy, and they needed it. They moved to 2-5 now, 2-5 now, I believe.
Yeah, it's looking bad for the Chargers, and I'm certainly not surprised to see something like that because, like I said before, it always seems like that's how the Chargers lose is because of their own ginormous blunders.
Right.
But honestly, I will give a little bit of credit to the Tennessee player who got the fumble because he came in there and punched it out and recovered it himself. I believe it was the same guy. But anyways, that was a definitely crazy ending to a game. There was definitely some more fun ones. Let's keep moving on here. The Rams destroyed the Falcons. I'm a little bit of a Todd Gurley fan. He had a good game, so that was good to see. One that I wasn't happy to see was Buffalo-Miami. I picked up Buffalo's defense in both fantasy leagues.
Yeah.
And they still ended up getting 8, which is respectable, but you definitely didn't see Fitzmagic coming out there and doing that because it ended at 31-21, but the late, fail on the onside kick really made that look a little bit bigger of a deficit.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the plays of the weekend, that onside recovery.
Yeah, that was pretty spectacular. And if it weren't for that, Buffalo's defense would have done, pretty bad, 4 points maybe or something.
Right, exactly.
So,
that kind of saved them.
That was pretty huge for sure. Yeah. Do you want to get into just some fantasy talk real quick?
Yeah.
And then we can get into maybe the playoff picture after this week. I mean, it's a little bit early for the playoffs, but we want to do it anyway because it's just fun. So as far as fantasy goes, I went 2-0. I don't know how you did this week.
Also 2-0.
Also 2-0. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to pay attention to the podcast, if not for any other reason than our expertise in the fantasy.
Yeah. We will discuss trades, pickups, waivers.
I'm going to be honest with you. Trades in fantasy normally don't work out. Nobody wants to...
I haven't made a trade in any league yet. I'm going to be honest. But
I have never made a trade that made a difference. I was offered a trade earlier in the year, though. Joe Mixon and, somebody else for George Kittle and somebody else from my team. And I didn't go with – it was Greg Olsen was the other one for Joe Mixon and Greg Olsen and Kittle and one of my weaker receivers, I think. But I didn't go through with it because I didn't have much faith in Mixon, especially the Bengals. So I'm pretty happy that I turned it down.
Yeah, and Mixon, he's a good player, but he's in a bad offense.
Right.
Abysmal offense, so.
Yeah. All right, let's go back.
I don't think he's had a good week yet.
All right, we're gonna move on from fantasy. I think that's enough talk for now. It was a weird week, I thought, in fantasy, and there was no real huge performers that I noticed too much. Marvin
Waller.
Jones and Chase Edmonds, two guys that I don't think.
Yeah, Chase Edmonds.
Waller from the Raiders. He had a lot.
The Raiders had Waller had a lot.
Yeah, I saw him out on the waivers too this week and just put in Kittle instead. And of course there was a monsoon.
Right.
The 49ers game.
Yeah, that
definitely ruined
mess.
Him and Coleman for me. Luckily my opponent scored 52 points this week, so it was a free dub. Yeah,
there was like 350 total yards, I think, in that Washington 49ers game. So and it ended 9-0. So
we'll write that off as just a fluky kind of thing. All right, so we're gonna. That's all we have.
Picture?
Yeah, that's all we have for fantasy, man.
Yeah,
we're gonna set up another podcast later in the week to discuss the next week's games. This is just more of a review. All right, so playoff picture. I'm going to start with AFC. We have, the Buffalo Bills at 5-1. Probably the worst team that's in the playoff picture for the AFC. If you're asking me,
I would agree. I do not think they're the real deal.
Like if we even go down to like the Raiders, dude. Get the Jaguars. Man, the AFC is just
they're not
terrible,
good.
Huh?
Yeah.
Gosh.
There's only I'm seeing 6 teams above 500 in the AFC right now.
Right. Okay, so
they got some real stinkers. They got a lot of 2-win teams and a couple goose eggs in the Dolphins and the Bengals. So
right.
But I don't think the Bills are for real. The teams that I do think are for real, and I'll ask you to give me 4 teams that you think could also go to the Super Bowl. I would say my 4 right now, the Patriots, they're the Patriots. That's my favorite as it stands. The Ravens, I think, are good. Their defense is good. Their offense is explosive. The Colts, I think, are underrated at the moment. I think they can contend with anybody in the league.
Yeah, I don't know if I think people are starting to really realize after they beat the Chiefs and now Houston. So
right. Yeah.
I think we're on the radar finally.
Yeah, on the radar for sure. But speaking of the Chiefs, they're my 4th team just because I think if Mahomes is clicking, they can beat anyone. Obviously, we've seen it.
Yeah.
But
especially considering he'll be back rather soon and it shouldn't be too big of a deal.
Right. But with that being said, I really don't think the Chiefs will make the Super Bowl this year.
Oh no,
I don't think their defense is good enough.
Their
And
defense
things
has been
can
pretty
change.
bad.
Right, things can change.
Yeah.
Sure. If their defense picks it up.
If they would have gotten Jalen Ramsey, we might be talking different. But I think that's probably the biggest trade we'll see this year. Has there been? I don't know that there's really been any rumblings of other people other than maybe Stephon Diggs, but I mean, Kirk Cousins seems to have figured it out at the moment. I don't think that's going to happen.
I think now that
unless they flame out in the next few games, but I think the Chiefs are kind of set with what they got, and obviously the offense is good, but the defense is just not, especially running the ball. Even though they stopped it this week against the Broncos, but.
Right.
Is anybody that impressed with what the Broncos have done? Especially Joe Flacco, to me, is just terrible. So that's definitely not a team that I'm looking to expecting much out of. And the AFC is just looking real bad right now.
Yeah.
The Cleveland Browns might that division is the Browns,
the Ravens,
Steelers. And the Steelers, and there's just no chance.
Yeah.
For anybody to catch the Ravens, in my opinion, especially with the big dub over the Seahawks this week for the Ravens, man, that was
huge.
I think that's a really big win, and especially for once we start talking about that NFC with that division with the Seahawks, Rams, and 49ers, that's just, man,
Saints,
if we see
Vikings,
teams, we might literally see 3 teams from that division in the playoffs because those could be the 2 wild card winners.
Right.
That's how good
Absolutely.
that division is right now, I think.
Absolutely.
And this week, a big win for the Rams over the Falcons. Obviously, the Falcons aren't great, but get back on track. They're 4-3, and things are definitely looking better. But
same with the Cowboys. I'm not a huge fan of the Cowboys. I'm going to be honest, but it's a big win for them. Divisional. Yeah. This is always the conference that you're like. It comes down to is a team going to go 8-8 or 9-7 to clinch the division every single year. So this win is obviously big. Moves them to 4-3 and the Eagles to 3-4. So
right, and looking back at some of the Rams games, they lost to the Buccaneers badly. Their defense did not look good in that game. So that's one they'll really want back whenever this thing starts to heat up because the Cowboys just put themselves in firm control over with that win over the Eagles, and I just really think that these wild card spots in the NFC are going to be so tough to get. You're going to have to get to probably 10 wins even to get one of those. So it's looking pretty sketchy for anybody, even at 4-3 isn't, you're not feeling too great. And I'm actually shocked. The Panthers right now 4-2. Kyle Allen.
Yeah, they were 0-2 with Cam Newton, and they're 4-0 with Kyle Allen. I don't think that it's all Kyle Allen. Obviously, I'm an Auburn fan, so I'm gonna stick with my boy Cam. I don't think that those first 2 losses were his fault. Obviously, that one came down to the McCaffrey play.
Almost had it.
Just a solo tackle on the edge. They got a lot of grief for that play call.
Yeah, and McCaffrey,
but
McCaffrey as a running back is actually a legitimate MVP.
Right.
In that conversation right now.
Absolutely.
Not that Kyle Allen has to do nothing, but having that caliber of a player on your offense is going to help. And their defense, I definitely think, is one of the better ones. I mean, obviously we have the Vikings, we have the Packers.
Yeah.
Saints
really
are good.
Incredible defense.
The 49ers defenses look
insane.
good.
They get pressure on almost every down. I mean, if you look at –
I cannot wait for the NFC playoffs. Obviously, I'm looking forward to my Colts in the AFC
Obviously,
playoffs.
Yes, but the Ravens,
the NFC
I got a little.
Is just this whole year. All these games are huge right now.
Yeah, it's crazy, and you look at the point differential for the 49ers is 92, and for the Patriots is 142, and that's just astronomical. 30 points above anybody else in the league.
Yeah, that's what defense gets you, man. The Pats' defense has definitely been the best.
I don't know how many points
they've also
allowed this year.
I will also say, though, they've had a little bit of a cakewalk so far. I believe Dolphins, Bills, and now they get the Jets tonight, which we can kind of transition into that talk if you want, because, I don't know, I think we wrapped up the playoff picture for now. We can't do too much,
Yeah.
I'm definitely looking forward in the AFC to the Colts-Chiefs if they both make it. That'll be another fun rematch because that was such a big dub that not a lot of people expected, and I think we can do it again. I think we can, make a real run in the AFC. The Pats are obviously the team to beat, but we'll see what they look like when they're facing better teams after tonight, which let's go ahead and transition into tonight's game. The Jets, I think they're home.
They are. It's at the Jets. The line is 10 to the Pats.
It's not bad.
I think, I think it's a bad idea to bet against the Patriots. But given that, I don't think their offense has been as good the last few weeks. And
I think
the Jets at home, I think they cover 10. I think the under hits as well. I think it's 43. So, I think it's going to be a low scoring. I feel like primetime games this year have kind of been that low, minus last night's game. The Cowboys kind of, their offense was clicking. But other than that, they've been brawls. Defense. So I think another one of those, maybe 17-10, 24-10 even. The under will hit. I can see the Pats covering. I don't think you bet on the Jets, but at home, 10 is a lot of points. 10's a lot of points.
It's worth it a little bit because I do think the Jets' defensive line, at least, I don't know about the rest of their defense, but I think they have a decent defensive line. And Brady's not got the best line anymore. I really do think the strength of the Pats is in that defense. So I definitely agree as far as the under is concerned. And that could be a closer game than some people think. I think the under definitely hits. And then I think the Jets is not a bad bet, to be honest.
Yeah, I would agree.
Could be just a 7-point game. I could see it. But Pat's easy dub.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, Patriots moved to 7-0, remain the best team in the NFL, in my opinion.
Fuck them.
I hate it. Yeah, you don't want to hear it, but they're the best.
Gotta admit it.
Until their defense gives up more than 20 points.
I will say, though, the Packers are starting to grow on me a little bit. Their defense is obviously very good.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers right now is making everybody on his team look good.
Right.
So.
LaFleur is...
They're finally getting
that offense is clicking, to say the least.
Yep. All right. Anything else you want to touch on in the NFL world, fantasy, any of that?
I think we got it all.
So we want to move into college football. Maybe start with Purdue.
Yes, the Boilers.
Obviously disappointing weekend, but not the worst performance.
Yeah, I guess, first explain two native Lafayette kids here. So, we have stake in the Boilers.
Yeah.
So this podcast will touch on them quite a bit. But I liked what I saw this weekend. We didn't get the win, but we went into Iowa City and we gave them a run for their money with a bad defense. Our defense has been bad just all year.
Depleted team.
But our freshmen look good. Plummer had, some shaky throws where I know Braum said in his post-game interview he was just trying to do too much. I agree with him. There were just a few times where it's like throw the ball away and he would try to sneak it in. And luckily Iowa, I think, dropped a few picks. Or that could have been a little uglier.
Yeah.
But David Bell, an absolute freak.
I think for Purdue, that's the biggest takeaway is we really have another wide receiver that's stepping up while Rondale Moore is, out.
And Hopkins is still a beast, and I think we haven't seen the best of Milton Wright by any means.
I think Hopkins has been a little bit shaky lately. I've
He,
seen some drops out of him lately that he normally would have.
He has been dropping the ball, but I think he had 140 yards receiving against Maryland.
Mm-hmm. And that was a big one there.
He's a threat across the middle. If Plummer can hit the seam throw, between the safety and the corner, or between the safety and the linebacker, like across that middle, that's been a staple in Brom's offense since he's got here, and I think it'll continue to be. I'm excited, very, very excited to see this offense if Rondale gets back next week or the week after. I think we beat Illinois either way this week, with or without him. And obviously, he has NFL talent. We don't want to ruin that in college. Right. If he needs another week, give it to him. I think we beat Illinois either way. Once he gets back, our offense is scary. It really is.
Mm-hmm. And obviously last year we had the Big Ten's best passing offense. So
right,
adding David Bell, him maturing a little bit is definitely a good thing for us. Yeah. So, all right, we can move on, talk about some other matchups. Penn State, Michigan. That was a big game in the Big Ten. Two teams that are just juggernauts at the moment.
Right, college game day.
Other than there's Wisconsin and Ohio State, but these are two teams in the Big Ten that are really, really good. So
yeah. Michigan, they showed me that if they're playing well, they can be good. I really thought they were a bad team before this game. I'm not gonna lie. That Wisconsin game was an absolute thrashing. And it just seems like every single time they play a big-time opponent, they get beat. They beat the little schools and they lose to the big-time ones. And, I think people are sick of it, Michigan fans.
We know how that feels as Purdue fans, man.
Yeah, but, again, they were down 21-0, and they looked like they could have won the game at the end. Shea Patterson was looking confident, was scrambling in the pocket. If not for an unfortunate drop on 4th and 3 or whatever it was in the end zone that would have tied it, or they would have taken the lead. I forget, but
I think they would have won the game.
Yeah, I think they were only down 5 or 4. So this. Yeah,
he had him in the end zone.
And right, it was a good throw. Good throw. Yep. And I know, being from Indiana, you do meet a lot of Michigan fans, and they do not like Patterson for the most part. They just don't think he's good. But I thought he played really, really well, at least in that second half, at least down the stretch. He looked like he's a gamer.
To me,
an unfortunate loss.
To me, it's more the way Harbaugh's been running the offense, because it's not just Patterson.
Yeah, I would agree.
It's been a multitude of different quarterbacks now that he doesn't get the most out of them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think their offense could use some tweaking, but
it's crazy.
Obviously that defense is still pretty good, even though the Penn State kind of lit them up a little bit. Early on. And
yeah, it's crazy to me that Jim Harbaugh was such a success in the NFL, took the 49ers to a Super Bowl. When the 49ers fired him, everyone was just it was clearly just they didn't see eye to eye on things. It wasn't that he wasn't getting the job done, because he was a fantastic coach there. But I'm surprised that he isn't thriving in the college game.
Yeah.
But speaking of former NFL coaches who went to Super Bowls, we can move on to Lovie Smith and Illinois. Got that huge win.
Look at that transition, huge
win. Yeah.
Stroke it.
Yeah.
That was wow. I'd love if you put money on Illinois to even cover in this game,
I will shake your hand. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
I might smooch you on down south. No, but seriously, that was a huge win for the Illini. Wisconsin losing that's pretty big, because you never know if they keep winning. If they were to have kept winning, they could be in a nice nice talk for the playoff.
Yeah.
But now it's like,
and
there's
still a route, right?
That loss,
there's still a route. If they, win out, they can beat Minnesota, who is the other team in the West right now of the Big Ten, who, they're undefeated. They look like they're a contender. So really, I think Wisconsin needs to beat Minnesota, win out. Yeah. There's still a chance you beat Ohio State in the Big Ten championship. You're in my opinion. You have one loss. It's bad. It is bad.
But
yes, if you win the rest of your games and you have a win over Minnesota, who's going to be, the new rankings came out today.
Maybe go check that out.
Let's just look what Minnesota's ranked now. 17th still, which I think is
16.
Okay, yeah. Coaches poll 16, AP poll 17.
Okay.
But I think that's low. That's only 3 above Iowa in the AP poll, and
there's a lot of Big Ten here in the top 25, though. I'll tell you, it's going to be really tough for any of these teams to, stay unbeaten. Obviously, this is a really bad loss for them, but I think there's definitely wiggle room as far as them sneaking back in. But this is going to make it really tough and put a lot more pressure on them to stay perfect the rest of the year. And honestly, I don't see them beating Ohio State, so we'll see.
Right, yeah.
We'll see how this all shakes out. What if Minnesota upsets them too, and we're like, oh, well, Wisconsin might not be as good as we thought. It kind of sways week to week.
Yeah. I will say a little weak storming of the field by Illinois, though. They took out a undefeated top, 6 opponent? I think there
were 8.
8?
I want to say 8.
Either way. But, a top 10 opponent. And, the middle of the field had fans in it, but it wasn't.
They were 6.
Yeah.
7.
Yeah, it wasn't to the magnitude of that Purdue-Ohio State game last year where the whole – it was covered. The whole field was black.
Ohio State has to be a little bit scared of coming to Purdue anymore because this is like – the last 5 times that they've been to our house to play football, we're taking 3 of those dubs. Yeah. So
I do want to say something funny that I saw on Twitter about that Ohio State game against Purdue and the Wisconsin game against Illinois was Eastern Michigan has beaten Purdue last year and then Illinois this year. So, for those of you transitive property folks, Eastern Michigan has beaten some top 10 opponents. But, I lost my train of thought.
Well, okay, so it was Central Michigan, right?
Eastern
Michigan. Okay, Eastern Michigan has beaten. They beat Purdue, right?
Right.
And then Purdue beat Ohio State following that.
Yes, and then they beat Illinois this year.
Right.
And they beat Wisconsin. Yeah.
And then Illinois ends up beating Wisconsin. So if you're
Eastern
looking to
Michigan,
have some big wins later in the year, just lose to Eastern Michigan. That's all you have to do.
And maybe they have a bid into the Big Ten over Rutgers? No?
I think it's time to sweep a couple out of the Big Ten, to be honest with you. Yeah. All right, let's go and transition out of – actually, we can talk – last thing I think is the Oklahoma carriage.
Yeah, and then I want to talk a little bit about just the top contenders that I see.
Okay. We can go to that playoff picture maybe a little bit too. Yeah. All right, but anyways, just real quick, the Oklahoma thing, they had horses pulling a carriage, obviously.
It was fucked up.
And the carriage knocks over, and I think only one chick was – a
little shooken up, but
most of them were okay.
Right.
Everybody's all right. So, anyways.
Yeah, and the horses are good. They just ran
off. The horses were out. They're like, wait, they fell off? Oh, let's dip.
Yeah.
It was pretty funny.
Yeah. Yeah. That no one got hurt, it became very funny. Right. For sure.
All right, can we go back to the college football real quick, and let's just – the top 4 is Alabama, LSU, Ohio State, Clemson.
Yeah. And
I personally don't think this force sticks. I think maybe Clemson and LSU could fall out. No, I think Alabama and Ohio State would be the two that I'm most certain of.
yeah, I would agree.
Oklahoma and Jalen Hurts look real good. Penn State's obviously look really good. I'm not really sold on Florida.
I don't see a route for Florida or Notre Dame. You could make a bid for Auburn still. They still have Georgia, Alabama.
They're going to have to get some big wins.
Yes.
If they can somehow take out Alabama, I mean, dude, there's some interesting ways this could shake out. And I think, obviously Alabama's Alabama right now, but they're not unbeatable. It's not one of those years to me. I think this is the best chance that Ohio State's had in a little while to really actually win the playoff.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting. And I think, like I said, Alabama and Ohio State's definitely my top two at the moment.
Yeah, Alabama, Ohio State, Oklahoma, I really, really, really like.
Yeah.
Auburn, if they beat LSU this weekend and they can beat Georgia and Alabama, they're in for sure. Well, but they would have to play in the SEC championship game. But if they win that, they're in. Obviously,
yeah. I mean,
that's the other team I think is really, really good though. They do have a loss, but
yeah, I get you, but it's there's nobody that I'm really confident in
besides Alabama, Ohio State. LSU is legit. I actually see them staying in over Alabama, I think.
Really?
I just think
that's a tough one.
I really think that
I do like
LSU is legit.
They're not too
Their
bad.
defense is bad though. That is I'm not sold on their defense. Their offense is incredible.
Yeah.
Not sold on their defense.
All right. Anything else?
No, I don't think so. As far as college goes, we'll talk about it more on Thursday.
Here's the SEC standings. This is really going to be important because Alabama, LSU, Auburn, all on the same side.
They all play.
Yeah,
too.
they're all on the same side. So
right.
I mean, I don't think especially the way the SEC championship is going to be set up. I don't think that more than one of those teams is going to be able to make it in there. Do you think?
No, No, I don't. I think it has to be one SEC team, as good as they are. Florida and Georgia in the East it's between them.
If Florida wins out, or I guess it's Georgia, right? Georgia, Florida, right there, right?
Yes.
Okay.
If Florida or
one
Georgia
of those wins out and at least makes the SEC championship game, say they even lose to Alabama, but they're still looking good. That to me, I don't think
they could.
Unless obviously
because
if they
that
beat
would be
Alabama,
two
that's
losses
for
for them. That would be two losses for either of those teams, and I don't think you could put them in over a one-loss Oklahoma or a one-loss LSU even, because if Alabama makes the SEC championship, now you have LSU at only one loss, and their one loss is going to be to either Auburn or Alabama down the stretch here. We'll see. The West, I think, could get two. And we've seen it before in the playoff era. Even just last year, Alabama and Georgia both made the playoff.
See, that's what I'm saying, though, is I think it has to be the teams from the other side of the SEC.
I just don't like that they already have one loss. Is that the only thing I'm saying?
Right, and so does Georgia. So both of those sides are looking like – I think it could really come down to only one SEC team, and to me that's Alabama right now, but Auburn and LSU have a chance there. It's going to be
right, and you would
some really good games, especially this one coming up, Auburn LSU.
And if Clemson, in my opinion, isn't going to lose, so you have to keep them in. They're a lock. So it's between Alabama,
you think
LSU.
A lock?
Yeah. Well, they don't have a ranked team on their schedule.
The rest of the year?
No.
Oh man.
And then they'll play a bad team in the ACC championship game because the ACC is bad. So Clemson, yes, in my opinion, lock. Then the other three spots come down to essentially 5 teams in Alabama, Ohio State, LSU, Oklahoma, and Penn State.
Yeah.
Depending on how the SEC shakes out, I think only one team gets in there. And then I think it's going to come down to one Big Ten team and Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma gets in. Yeah. They got to stay perfect. They can't slip up, but I think they get in. They look really, really good right now.
Yeah. I think they can definitely do it, but that's one of those teams that I could also definitely see them slipping up in their end of the year championship, whatever. What is it? What are they in?
Big 12.
Big 12, right.
Yeah, so, if we want to look at the Big 12 real quick.
Yeah, there's a couple of teams in there that I'm not.
Texas.
Yeah, I'm not, super.
Baylor is actually undefeated.
Yeah, Baylor
still.
Yeah. So that's still an interesting, upsettable conference.
Yeah, and Oklahoma still has to play them. They still have to play a ranked ISU. Iowa State.
Yeah.
They have to go on the road this weekend at Kansas State, which trap game. There's a few trap games left. They got they
TCU.
go on the road at Baylor. And they got TCU at home and then Oklahoma State on the road. So
definitely not an easy road for SEC teams specifically. That's looking real. That's going to be really interesting coming up, and obviously the Big Ten too. So, all right, I think we should.
What do we want to talk about next?
I think next we're going to be moving into the NBA.
Okay.
Finally, it's back. First night, tomorrow night, Tuesday night, 8 p.m., Pelicans Raptors. We just got word today. Zion out for 6 to 8 weeks, so that matchup is.
It's a little less intriguing.
We went from spicy to just a real weak salsa.
Yeah. And I'm still going to watch. My boy Etwan will be out there, so I'll still watch.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see these new-look Raptors, obviously without Kawhi now, after just winning the championship. That team's completely different.
Right.
So that's going to be...
We will see if Pascal Siakam is the player that the Raptors think he is.
Right, because he definitely had an emergence in the playoffs.
He showed flashes. I would agree.
I don't see him as the type of guy like Kawhi to be able to take over those big playoff moments, though.
No.
And
even take over a game.
I don't know.
I don't
exactly.
see it necessarily. Yeah.
He had a couple games last year. He had a couple games last year, though.
Yeah.
That he did kind of take over. But I don't see him at the helm, them being really even a playoff threat. They could make it in as a lower seed, but, the top of that side of the bracket, the top heavy teams there are going to be just way too good with the Bucks and whoever else.
Yeah, Bucks, they can make the playoffs.
Sixers,
obviously. The Pacers will be good.
I don't know about the Pacers, man. I don't know
you
what
don't?
to think about their team. I mean, I'm a big fan of Oladipo, but I don't know that. I don't have faith in them to do anything in the playoffs either, to be honest.
Maybe not in the playoffs, but I think they'll make it 4 or 5 seed.
Yeah. The East is not as hard to get into the playoffs, but I still feel like
the Bucks,
Milwaukee is looking real good still.
Right. Yeah. The Bucks, the Sixers, the Celtics.
I don't know about the Celtics either.
I'm not sold, but
not sold.
Worth mentioning.
Yeah. All right. So let's go. The next game on tomorrow night, Lakers, Clippers. Who's the home team? Who gives a shit? It's great.
Well,
this is gonna be the matchup we were all hoping for, and thank God the NBA chose to do this game one. And as far as I know, other than Paul George, I don't believe is going to be playing. I believe everybody else is a go. Kawhi Leonard, LeBron James, the GOAT, my GOAT. I don't care what anybody says. AD. So
it'll be entertaining, to say the least.
Definitely one to watch, folks. 10:30 Eastern, Tuesday night. Let's scroll on down, check out, see if there's any games that we want to highlight for the rest of the week.
Celtics 76ers actually do play Wednesday, 7:30 Eastern.
That's a pretty heated matchup, too. Coming out hot. Wednesday at 7:30, yep.
I'm excited to see how the Kings do.
Buddy Hield just got his money today, I believe. So that's good for him, good for them. I'm not sold on him. Like, I don't think that they're going to be really much of a threat either.
No,
but
not a threat.
They're definitely upgrading and getting there. Another one is the Thunder Jazz. The Jazz look a lot different, and I think could be actually pretty dang good. They got Conley. And the Thunder obviously got Chris Paul for Westbrook. That was a big, big move in the offseason. Obviously, we had quite a few with the AD, with Kawhi, and now the Russell for Chris Paul, and they thought Chris Paul would be leaving Thunder, but here he is. He's going to be starting game 1. So that's an interesting one to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited to see how the NBA shakes out this year.
All right, one last one I want to touch on here is the Thursday night game, 8 p.m., Bucks-Rockets. Two teams to me that are championship worthy. Russ and Harden back together. That's a crazy duo. I don't know what that basketball is going to look like, but I'm sure it's going to have a lot of pace to it, a lot of scoring, or at least a lot of shots. Who knows if the efficiency will be there. That's something I'm worried about, to be honest. And Bucks are the efficiency team.
Right,
with
exactly.
Giannis just getting to the bucket, man. So
yeah, that's an interesting matchup on Thursday for sure.
Right, and then later that night is Clippers Warriors as well. Wow, Thursday night, folks.
Warriors, another team that looks a lot different.
I know Thursday night is football night, but this week's Thursday matchup I don't think is great for the NFL. So maybe Clippers Warriors Bucks Rockets is more tasty.
Right.
Man, I can't wait. I love NBA. I love NFL. This is the best time of the year for sports. It's just getting heated up.
Absolutely. Yeah, NCAA basketball's starting in 3 weeks.
Right.
Boilers actually came out ranked 23rd today.
23rd. Let's go. We're in there.
Yep.
We're in there. We're going to touch on this quickly. The World Series is going to be the Houston Astros, Washington Nationals. This is the first time ever for the Nationals to get to the World Series, so that was big for them. Swept the Cardinals. Love to see it as a Cubs fan.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't say I follow much baseball. I'll watch a Cubs game here and there. But it looks – I've watched a few playoff matchups, and it looks to me Astros are the team to beat. I think that's, the unanimous decision from what I've been hearing.
Yeah.
But who knows? 7-game series. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. It's definitely not impossible for the Nationals, but I would assume the Astros are a pretty big favorite.
And we'll talk a little bit more about that on our next one, because we'll have a couple games to look back on, or at least one.
We'll get into that as it unfolds, but we're not huge baseball heads, so it's not going to be our main focus of this podcast forever. So,
unfortunately for you baseball fans out there, we're sorry. If the Cubs were in the World Series, it'd probably be a different story.
Factual,
but
we got our one championship for the century, so we're fine. We're going to move on, talk about some soccer now.
Yeah, hop over the pond.
Last but not least, the wonderful, the just ever so beautiful
It's
craft.
the beautiful game. It's a beautiful game for a reason. We'll talk mostly Premier League.
Yeah, there were some pretty interesting matchups this week.
And touch a little bit on the Champions League that's going to be played on Tuesday and Thursday.
We got that pulled up, Nick. Premier League here.
So the big matchup of the weekend, obviously, Liverpool, Man United. To me, without a doubt, the biggest rivalry in the Premier League. As far as history, as far as fan bases.
And just as far as, success, obviously.
Right. Arsenal-Tottenham is up there
been...
as far as, they hate each other. But, success tells a different story. It's just there's always something on the line in this game. Even though Man United has looked underwhelming so far this year,
to say the least,
they get a win, or they get a draw rather. So they at least get a point. It is actually the first points taken from Liverpool. They were eight wins, no draws, no losses coming into that game.
Yeah.
So the first 2 points off of Liverpool, hopefully that'll make the table a little bit more intriguing. Man City is still 6 points out of first, but
Yeah.
at least some points away.
Yeah. It's not looking.
It's early.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It's not looking too crazy. Obviously Liverpool could hit a little bit of a snag. They obviously just drew with pretty lackluster.
Mediocre.
Yeah.
And
we've obviously seen in past years a way better Man United.
Yeah. And, I mean, Man United, they've only given up 9 goals all year. Right? So, it's not their defense, but they've only scored 10.
Right.
It's clearly they just aren't clicking on the offensive end. They want to play counterattacking football. They really don't know what to do in possession. We saw their counterattack. It worked wonderfully. If you can get the ball out quick to Dan James, he's the fastest, he's quick as shit.
Yeah. That goal that they had was on his exit, him
right, yeah. And he plays a lovely ball, lovely ball. And Rashford, for Rashford, that's a huge goal.
Got himself
confidence
back on track.
booster. Yeah.
Yeah.
For Man United as a whole, I don't think it's a huge it's not a huge result. Like, it doesn't hurt Liverpool that bad, is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
But it is huge for Man United because you've proven to yourself, if not for a late goal by them, you get 3 points in that game. You look like you can score. If you hit the counter, they need to figure out a way to create in possession.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure there was a couple times, too, in that game where VAR checked on some penalties possibly.
Yeah,
and it kind of seemed like they were leaning against any penalties for that game.
I think that's been kind of a resounding circumstance in Premier League as a whole now. Just they don't want to change what the NFL or what the referees saw on the field mostly.
It's funny you brought up the
kind
NFL
of like the NFL. That's actually why I slipped out because I wanted to branch over to that's kind of how the NFL does things as far as leaning towards the officials' call on the field, I would say, because there were, even today in that Arsenal Sheffield game where Arsenal, they look lackluster, they don't deserve a win, but there were a few times that I thought they had penalties and they went to VAR and they decided not.
There was a couple, too, in the Tottenham game, I remember.
Yeah.
Same thing, man. It's just been a recurring
issue. VAR has just been – it was brought into, ideally into the controversy. But I think we all knew that really wasn't going to happen. That really it hasn't happened yet in a sport where they introduced this kind of replay system.
Yeah,
it helps some things.
It's definitely not perfect. But let's be honest, everybody wants to see the replay. Anytime something crazy happens.
Right.
So I think it's better with than without, but it's still working a lot of kinks out. So, anyways, any other Premier League stuff that you're thinking of at the moment?
Touch on obviously those top 4 spots get into the Champions League. So right now it's Liverpool, Man City, Leicester, and Chelsea. And I think Leicester's for real. I think they are a really, really solid team defensively and offensively. They can create. They've played together. They have just wonderful chemistry on the field. And I think Leicester's for real. I like them to stay in the top 4. I think right now Manchester United doesn't finish top 6. I don't know if Tottenham will finish top 6. I think there might be 2 switch-ups in that, almost patented top 6 that's always in the Premier League. I think there could be some switch-ups this year.
Definitely.
And then just touch on the team I root for in the Prem, Wolverhampton Wanderers.
sleepers.
Not a great performance this weekend. We were up to 11th in the table. We're back down to 13th with a draw against Southampton.
Still above Man United?
Yes, still above Man United. As shocking as that is. And 13th, Man United is in 14th.
Yeah.
And then Everton right there in 15th.
I feel like we're about to have a real interesting shuffle of this table over the next 2 to 3 weeks, man. Because Crystal Palace at 6, they're going to end up sliding at some point.
Burnley and Sheffield are there at 8 and 9.
Yeah, Sheffield obviously with a big win today over Arsenal. I'm surprised Arsenal's still at 5 right now after today's blunder. It was just not a pretty game for them.
It's just not. There's been a lot of draws this year. It's just there's not a lot of points on the table, you know. 17's in third through 9 matches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
so
obviously Liverpool hot start, not looking as strong lately, but still I don't think they're too worried at the moment.
No.
I don't. Obviously, the top few are going to stick around for at least a little while.
Yeah, I think Liverpool is in a really, really good spot right now. I think they will keep winning. I think if they're top at Christmas, they end up winning. They don't do what they did last year and let it slip. But obviously, it's anyone's guess. Things can change. They could start playing bad, and it's the Premier League. Every team can beat you.
Yeah, anything can happen.
So,
all right, I think we're going to move into the Champions League now. Last real topic on football, soccer.
Yes. So games Tuesday, I believe. First one started at 12:55
Eastern. Yep.
Yeah, Eastern time. Some pretty It's a pretty uneventful day, Tuesday.
I mean, there's some big name teams, but no matchups you're really jumping out of your seat for.
In that early window, they've got obviously some playmakers. João Felix, unbelievable talent. And then probably the game of the day, Man City, Atalanta.
Atalanta's been looking.
They're not bad this year.
Kind of surprising.
The Italian squad.
But Man City's obviously a huge task for them.
Yeah.
You got to expect Man City to come out and really handle business there. I would say a multiple goal lead there. But you can't be too upset with what Atalanta
they're in third right now.
Only 4 points behind Inter Milan, obviously.
Right. Inter and Juventus at the top of the table in the Serie A, but right behind them, Atalanta, and then Napoli, who also they should be playing.
They're playing Wednesday, 10:30, next Wednesday. Atalanta plays Napoli. But yeah, anyways, that's a decent matchup for tomorrow, 3 p.m., Man City.
Yeah. And then Club Brugge, PSG.
Yeah.
Also at 3.
Neymar's been looking pretty good back with PSG. I don't know if he's going to be playing.
It's
not necessarily a need for PSG to have all their stars playing, but you'd kind of expect them to get everybody out there if they can.
That's right. I mean, it's a Champions League game, so it'll be a star-studded lineup for PSG for sure. But the reason I think this game is interesting is it's Bruges at home. They have 2 1-1 draws in the table right now. They actually sit at second place in a group with Galatasaray and Real Madrid, who I'm guessing, not many people thought after 2 match days Club Brugge would be in second. But if they could get another, at least a point against PSG at home, and Real Madrid continues to struggle,
that's kind of crazy.
That could, that little table could get interesting.
To see Real Madrid at the bottom of that table,
right?
It's bad.
Yeah.
But obviously their next matchup will be a little bit easier. I believe they're going to be going against that third place team,
Galatasaray. Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure when that game. Oh, that is actually at the same time as the other one. So
all these at 3 p.m. here.
Yeah.
Let's go to Wednesday. Ajax-Chelsea. That's a really good one
Yes,
for Wednesday.
And that's in that early
Mm-hmm.
slot, so that won't interfere with the other big one in Inter Milan and Dortmund. You'll be able to watch both.
That's another good one. Barcelona also plays at 3 p.m. Wednesday. Liverpool plays at 3 p.m. Wednesday. Both easy matchups should be. So, I mean, this week, if you want to see your team, the big names,
Right.
Juventus is playing Tuesday at 3 as well.
Yeah.
Tottenham Tuesday at 3 as well. So, really, any of the big stars you want to be seeing this week, Champions League action, it's there. You
Yeah.
know, not the most crazy matchups, but there's some ones that are pretty interesting, and obviously having Real that low in that group
Right,
at the
in their
moment
group.
is interesting.
Uh-huh.
So there's definitely
Yeah,
some
a lot of
things
soccer to be played in those groups. Obviously, they got to, they'll be playing into, I don't know when the group stage ends exactly, but at least December, January.
Yeah, there's definitely some time left for them to switch it around, but I still expect, that I still expect them to make it through. you know. But right now, they don't look great.
Yeah.
They have a similar problem, I think, to who is it we were just talking about struggling to score?
Man United.
Man United,
Yeah.
right. Both
Yeah, I
of
would
them seem to
definitely
have a
agree.
pretty similar
Yeah,
issue at the moment.
Zidane, obviously in his first campaign at Madrid, looked like a god.
They all
won the
expected it to
Champions
come back.
League, and but they just don't have the players they did then. And I've heard some rumors circulating recently about Mourinho going in there from Zidane. I don't think that would be a bad move necessarily. I think it's a little early to pull the trigger.
Yeah, I think you let him finish out the year.
Yeah,
The Premier League, Champions League. Let's see what happens.
See what happens, and I think
Not
he
Premier
can,
League.
if he doesn't turn it around by Christmas, maybe reconsider again. I feel like that's kind of the midpoint of the season where you see, okay, like we need to make a change or we need to keep, the transfer window's right then. So, just be on the lookout. If Real Madrid doesn't turn it around, Zidane might be on the hot seat. I do want to talk a little bit about, if you gamble at all, some lines I like tomorrow in those Champions League games. Bruges at +1, I think easily. I might consider taking them +0.5 if you can find it, and plus
Wait.
money.
Wait, you think they're going to draw with PSG?
Yes, I think Club Bruges at home. I think there is value. Club Bruges +0.5. And I'd like Galatasaray +1 or +0.5 again. I think both those teams at home, maybe a good bet there would be a halftime score 0-0.
Yeah.
If you can do that, the exact score. I know they offer that on a lot of websites. So you could do a correct score of 0-0 at half. Both those games could end 1-1 is pretty much what I'm saying. I think under 3 is a decent value. It's
Definitely one I see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Not a lot of scoring, probably.
Man City at home against Atalanta -2.
That's a tough line, dude.
Yeah. I think they win by 2.
Right.
3-1 maybe. I don't know if they win by 3. I would probably lean towards Atalanta there. Olympiacos +1.5 against Bayern. I think they only lose by 1.
Yeah, I like that too.
Olympiacos, I watched the first game that they played. I forget who it was against. One of the big clubs in their group, though. And they looked impressive. They were moving the ball well. And they looked like they could cause some trouble against big names. So I think those, 4 or 5 picks are worth some value tomorrow.
If you're looking to drop a little bit of money
Yeah, maybe bet against Tottenham because they're awful.
because they're stupid
I
for
don't-
not starting Son.
Obviously, Red Star Belgrade is bad, but Tottenham has been abysmal. So
That's another one you could throw 0-0 at halftime
yes, absolutely.
pretty easily. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised in that game if Red Star takes the lead. That is just the team, that kind of team Tottenham is. I think they cover 1.5.
I don't think Belgrade's going to score, but I think it'll be like 1-0.
I think some close games.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
Definitely tune in. All sorts of fun stuff. Obviously, NBA Champs League Tuesday. Thursday, the NFL will be back with some snooze fest on Thursday night, I believe. No, I'm just kidding. I forget.
Yeah.
We can go real quick to see what that Thursday night game is. But just to real quickly before we end up the show here, we're going to go over this podcast schedule. So obviously we're doing this Monday before the Monday night game. We're just trying to recap the weekend. Obviously the Premier League, NFL. We're going to try and keep that format going as a recap on Mondays. And then the second one will be on Thursday prior to the NFL kickoff so we can get all the games previewed.
Right. And we'll be giving, betting tips, that sort of things. Recapping the games, at least briefly, that some of those games we talked about today.
Yeah, the Tuesday, Wednesday slate from Champions League we'll talk about Thursday.
Yeah.
And maybe some fantasy picks for Thursday, or not Thursday, this whole next week.
Right. Yeah. Lots of good stuff.
Yeah, and I'm sure some crazy news will come out and somebody will retire.
Right, we'll have some. Yeah, we will have topics, and I think we plan on having some guests involved too. A couple of our friends may stop by.
It won't always just be us two, but
this plans on being a pretty laid back, just shooting the shit, talking about sports.
Just talking about what we like to talk about.
Exactly.
We just like to do this, and we appreciate anybody listening. Any last words for him, Nick?
I don't think so. That Thursday night matchup's Washington and Minnesota.
Yep.
But that's
dud.
About all and we can talk about that.
We'll talk about that Thursday.
Yep.
We'll get into all the next week's NFL. All right, folks, we appreciate you tuning in. Hopefully you'll listen to the next one. This is just episode number 1, so strap in, and we'll be back here on Thursday. We'll see you later.